This is just the reason and where GradeCam was developed, with this idea of creating forms and working within an environment that did not disrupt the classroom flow, because that was so important. So the customizable forms became all a part of that, and working with your existing materials and your current assignments with little to no changes on those materials. As you can see in this example that I have here, just really showing that I created a form to match an assignment that we already had, and just by adding a little bit to the assignment itself, like some multiple choice options to those words in the word bank, and adding numbers just to the answers in the diagram. But that was very little. That I mixed and matched the variety of questions just to match what I already had. This made it so much easier for data collection, so that I could add standards to those questions, so I could pull back my results and look at, what was the high question, what was the low question, what do the individual students need, what are the overall things as a class that we need to work on together. And by creating these forms that match our current assignments, it also allows me to bring better focus to grading, because you can really allow GradeCam to grade those questions that are very easy, much more objective, giving you time to focus on the subjective, open-ended responses from your students. So really working what you've already got there and just mixing and matching these in a variety of ways. So there are a ton of question types that you can use in GradeCam, and it all does come back to the type of questions that you're asking your students and what kind of information you want to get from them. Is it a quick recall of facts? It's a more structured question. That may be better conducive to a multiple choice type question or a number grid, just really getting a straight answer. If you're going more into that more open-ended or constructed response, you start seeing the rubric and the rubric capture come in handy, because you can do things like an essay or doing a diagram in that capture area, so that you can bring that all back and look and review that information later. And by mixing and matching these questions, you get a nice variety, bring all your questions back to one place to review it later and not have to go through a variety of papers or programs. Just so you guys are aware that you may not have full access to all of these question types if you are on a trial or basic account. You do need a GradeCam Plus. So all the things that we're going to do here today, you can do with a GradeCam Plus or a school account. If you have tried GradeCam in the past and you're out of the trial, refer a teacher friend. You get 2 free months, and you'll get that full access to all these question types. So I do want to point out the 2 things that also, if you are a school account, you could try out Ada, and Ada is pretty awesome. She will actually do even more grading for you. So where GradeCam can support you, Ada takes it that much further. Ada is gonna grade those handwritten responses, numbers and letters, up to 30 characters. Just saves you even more time getting that grading out of the way, so you can focus back on teaching. It's awesome. So tip number 1, customize those multiple choice. Now, you do have that ability to really pick out those things that you can work with to match your questions that you're asking. So multiple choice is something that GradeCam does very, very well to really help you on those more objective type questions. But by customizing those responses, you make it even easier for students to make those connections. So in this example, like I was trying to share a variety or kinds of sentences, and I wanted students to make the connection with the types of sentences that there are. So you can change those multiple choice, like C for command, Q for question, and so on. And that way students don't have to think back and go, what did A stand for? What did B stand for? Customizing it, making it much easier for your students to make those connections so that you can really capture what you're trying to get them to learn. You also have the option to change your letters to numbers, and this kind of turns it a little bit more into a Likert scale. You can't, think in terms of doing a survey or something like that. You can use the rubric question type as well, though this gives it more like an overall score for the survey. Changing the letters to numbers is going to be more like how many 5s I have or how many 3s I have. Just gives you data in a different way so you can really capture that or take that in. So where do we make these changes, or what can we do? I'm going to pop on over to GradeCam just to show you what that looks like. So I'm in an assignment here just to show how I can make these customized multiple choice. This is all pretty traditional. If you want to change them all at once, check the box to select all the options, then choose Edit. From there, you can just make sure you have the multiple choice question type, and I want to change this over to my different sentence statements if I'd like to. That way that I have an idea of what making those connections. Again, if I want to be Q for question, E for exclamation, so on and so forth. Hit save. You'll see that all my responses are changed in one shot. And then I uncheck the boxes and I can go through and check the correct answers from there. It's very simple to make that customized as easily as you'd like. So I love that ability to really customize it, to make it much more your own and allow your students to make those connections. Tip number 2, build a key to match any assessment delivery method. Again, GradeCam was made to work with what you're already doing in the classroom and structuring it to best fit what you do. Don't feel like you have to change that. Knowing that you can create a GradeCam form that matches a variety of delivery types, from creating a form to match that workbook or textbook so you don't have to retype questions. It's all right there for you. Just create a form so that you can collect that information from students. If you want to go more to that teacher-paced style, you can go to that verbal or using a slide presentation. The students work from the form while you are presenting that information from the front of the room or saying the questions out loud. If you want to go more to that student pace, you can go into a paper copy where they have the paper and the form right there, or even a shared document. If you have students one-to-one devices, you can easily have them pull up a shared document where they're writing the responses right there on the GradeCam 4. The best thing about all of this is, again, you can mix and match the different delivery styles to meet the needs of your classroom. And however you deliver that, those forms all come back and they scan in all in the same place. Super handy if you have different types of learners and different types of classes. If you share your assessments, one teacher can give a verbal teacher-paced front-of-the-room assessment, while another teacher can give a paper copy or using the shared document, and the students go at their own pace. All that data comes back together, and all that data is shared together. So it's a really awesome opportunity to really meet the different learning styles. Again, if you're a school account, you may also have the opportunity for Student Portal. This gives you a fully digital solution for students to use the assessments. What I love about that is I can have one student do a digital assessment next to a student that wants to do it all in paper, because that's his learning style. GradeCam pulls all that data back into one place. I don't have to mix and match or try to hunt for where my data is or try to put it all together. You can bring it all back to GradeCam's powerful reporting tools using all those reports like the item analysis and the student by standard. It is amazing because it adapts to what you are already doing. Tip number 3, create multiple versions for accommodation. So we've already talked about students have different ways of wanting to take a test. Sometimes you need to give a different type of test, but you want your data to come back together. You can actually use different versions of this. This is a really handy piece. I haven't used the version as much as I thought it was really handy to be able to set that up. So in this particular example was one reason I wanted to show. So the one over here on the left is showing that I was collecting data from students, checking their response to the question, their handwriting, and their spelling. But then I wanted to make another version. My second version was the opportunity to collect a different, or the same kind of data, but all my focus is on, do they know the correct word and its meaning to place into the sentence? Instead of focusing on their handwriting or looking at how their spelling is, that's not what I'm grading. I just want to grade whether they're getting the understanding the meaning. So I changed that question type to multiple choice instead of doing the fill in the blank or a rubric capture question. So that's really nice that I can do a variety of assessments, but bring that data all back to one place. So in that example, if you're going to set that up, back here on the question that I was showing you before, to add a version along the left, all I have to do is hit add version, and you'll see it pop down some multiple versions here. I click on my second version, and I want to change this to those fill in the blank, and I click on all of them to change, edit. I want these all to be a fill in the blank response, so I can go down here to fill in the blank. Again, notice that if you are not a school that has access to Ada, you will not have fill in the blank, but you can still do the rubric with capture area. You'll have to come back and do the grading yourself. Ada will grade these fill in the blanks. So I go ahead and do fill in the blank. I want boxes. I'm gonna have to put in one response in here just to save it, and I can come back and edit those later, but just so you see how the question types change. Now I have two versions of the same test. To print these, to make it easier, you'll actually go up to your forms, and I want to choose my version. So on this particular one, I'm going to choose my second version, and I want to choose the specific kids that I want to give it to. So I choose my class, and I can pick my students. So if I hit Julius and then I hit generate, I can now print his form specifically for him. Or you can print the whole class and just skip through and don't print certain pages of those students that you don't want to do. Come back, choose the other version, and print those students. That way you're specifically determining what version is there. If you do versions kind of set up like two versions on your test, you can set it so the student selects their own version. It just may depend on the setup that works best for your classroom. It is important to note though, you cannot change a version or add a version if you have any scans. So this is something that you'll need to do before you pass out the test for your students to take it and before you print it, because you're going to have to print version 1 and version 2 or allow them to select a version. But that is a really nice piece to be able to really accommodate all types of learners in your classroom, and it brings that data back so that you can look it over. Just so you know, the item analysis and the item summary reports, they already do separate out because there are different versions, so it's pulling those responses back. But if you want to look at an overview to see, what questions, similar question styles, are the students getting right or wrong? If you've tied them to standards, you can go student by standard report, or you can do the student by question report and just go straight down the line to see what ones were right or wrong. But it's a good opportunity to really accommodate all types of learners. There's a lot of things you can do with those two different versions.